Hello everyone and welcome back to my kitchen. We are going to be making a beet salad today, and I have some water starting to boil right now that we'll be using for steaming the beets, getting that preheated, and David is off screen getting salmon put in the oven for our lunch that we will have with the beet salad. So I'm excited to share this recipe with you. This is kind of a spin-off of a recipe that a friend of mine taught me many years ago that I have really enjoyed. And having fresh beets coming out of our garden this summer has just been incredible. So I'm going to introduce you to our beets. We're going to get those steaming, and then I'll show you the rest of the ingredients. If you do, or the rest of the process, if you do want to get ingredients set up. Oh, Otis is here. If you want to get your ingredients set up, we are going to be using some sunflower seeds, dandelion, if you want to harvest some dandelion from your non-sprayed yard, cilantro, Bragg's liquid amino, or you can use Tamari or soy sauce, and cumin and salt. Maybe we'll use a little pepper too. So that's what we're going to be playing with today. I'm going to show you. So these are the beets that I picked out of our garden this morning, and they are just super delicious. They're a variety that grows really long, and what's interesting is that they pop up out of the ground kind of when they're ready to be harvested, like just the base of them is still, like from here down, is still under the ground. This summer I have also fully dived into my love of beet greens. Beet greens are so good. If you have never tried beet greens before, they are just delicious. So I'm gonna set these aside to make some sauteed beet greens to have with our salmon and beet salad as well later, which I will just saute up with some ghee and salt, maybe a little garlic. We'll see if that strikes my fancy at the time, but right now we're just gonna focus on the beets. So I'm going to let me set all of these way out of the way here. So I'm going to cut these beets up. Let me make sure you can see what I am doing here. Look at that color. Isn't that just gorgeous? Just gorgeous. So I'm going to cut these beets up into little cubes so that they steam quickly. And I'm going for about 4 cups. I tend to eyeball things, but let's see what this looks like with if we do some cup measuring here. And this beet has like a little bit of these kind of rough skin patches on it, so I'm just gonna clear that off. If you do not love beets, and maybe you've never had them prepared well, a lot of people have only ever had like pickled beets or canned beets. Pickled beets are pretty good. Canned beets, So I'm putting these in the bowl that we'll eventually make our beet salad in. So I'm cutting these up into basically little cubes, and putting them in the bowl. So this is, if you have not been a fan of beets, this is a great way to maybe investigate if you really don't like beets, or if you just haven't liked the beets that you've had prepared. Oh, I was gonna measure these. So let's see here, that one beet, how much cuppage did we get? So if you are are getting ready to make this too, and maybe you're just watching at the moment. But okay, so there's one and just a little bit cups. So the water that I just boiled behind me in our water boiler, I'm gonna put in the Instant Pot, in the bottom of the Instant Pot, and then steam these. If you don't have an Instant Pot or don't wanna use it for this purpose, you can also just do this in a regular pot with a steamer basket in the bottom. And that's how we can make these beets really tender. One of the things that's important in living Ayurvedically is that our cooking techniques change a bit through the seasons. So whereas in the winter we might make roasted beets, so we might cover them in oil. So there's 2 cups. Cover the beets in oil, put them on a cookie sheet, put them in the oven. So that's roasting them, and that's a very warming and kind of well, if we imagine like coating the beets in oil, so that makes them kind of more dense, making the food more dense, which is great for Vata season, but not particularly great for Pitta season, which is what we're in now. So we need to focus more on like cooling or light cooking techniques. So steaming is one of the best cooking techniques for the summertime. So we're steaming. So here's cup number 3. So I think this is gonna come out just about right. So we had 4 beets and we want 4 cups of beets. So let's see how this works out. And again, you don't have to be super exact. If you have any questions, if you're watching live and you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. I'll try to keep my eyes on the chat. So beets are great liver cleansers, blood nourisher, and they have sweet taste, and sweet taste is cooling. It's a cooling taste. So now my hands are covered in beet juice. So let me show you what I'm gonna set up here. So here's my Instant Pot, and you can use a smaller Instant Pot. I'm just using our big one. We have a small one too. So here's my steamer basket, right, that I'm gonna put in there. And then I'm gonna put that boiled water. So this is hot. So this just saves the time of the Instant Pot having to heat up the water to cook the beets. So it's just gonna help the beets cook quicker for our demo today. So I just poured them all in there. We've got our Instant Pot ready to go, and I'm just gonna put it, I know I'm off screen right now, but I'm gonna set up the Instant Pot to pressure cook for 10 minutes. Okay, so that is good to go. So now we're going to put together the rest of the ingredients. One thing that I did not mention that we're going to be using is, well, you can either use goat cheese or a plant-based goat cheese alternative. So I'm gonna tilt this up maybe a little bit. So I'm going to use a cashew cheese today. I'll rinse my hands off here. But I'm going to get that out when we're done. And I'm going to wipe off my, so you know beets dye everything that they touch, so it's good if you clean off your surfaces and your knives and your hands sooner rather than later for staining. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to dry toast some sunflower seeds. So you can choose how much you would like. I'm going to use a generous half a cup for the 4 cups of beets. So why are we using sunflower seeds? So again, in the summertime, it's summer isn't really the season of lots of nuts. When you think of when are nuts harvested, they're a fall harvest and a winter food. So during the summertime, the nut or seed choice gears more towards seeds. That doesn't mean you don't eat any nuts, but more thinking about lighter, more of that vibrant energy. Think of the difference between nuts and seeds. So they're both can turn into a plant, right? But this like a sunflower seed is a much more delicate, lighter quality food than a like walnuts or pecans. So sometimes I make this with walnuts or pecans as well. So you can try that if that's what you have. And also beets grow really like kind of late spring through late fall. And so you can make this recipe at different points in the season and use different nuts or seeds. So I'm gonna pour these into this pan that doesn't have anything else in it. So we're dry roasting. And I'm gonna get a little stirrer here. And so I'm just gonna let this cook. Let me turn this so you can see the pan here. So I'm just gonna let these sit in here, and I'll start to smell them as they get more browned and crisped. In the meantime, I'm going to chop up the greenery. So I have come to really enjoy having dandelion in this salad. And one of the things that I like thinking about in terms of cooking during the growing season is to try to have something wild in my food every single day. So I'm getting that nourishment from the macrobiome around me, so my environment. I am growing things in the garden, or David and I are growing things in the garden. So like the beets are from the garden, we've cultivated them, we're having those. But to add something that's wild, so wild greens are way more nourishing than any store-bought or cultivated green. So while we have a garden full of kale and Swiss chard, I also really like adding in some other greens. So like I made a sag the other day, which is like a spinach stew without spinach. And I used lamb's quarters, kale, and Swiss chard. It was divine. Lamb's quarters are a really great nutritive alternative to spinach, like way more nutritive than spinach. And they grow as weeds in most gardens. Today we're gonna put some dandelion into the salad. So I'm starting to smell these. I'm just gonna give them a little stir. Okay, and so I'm going to, we have this really huge dandelion plant outside, like pretty close to our door. Well, it's a little ways away, but I just picked these leaves, and so I'm just gonna chop these up really small. And one of the things that I like about dandelion in this recipe, and if we think about the 6 tastes in Ayurveda, is that beets are, we could say like their main taste. Some people would disagree with this, but I would say the main taste of beets is that they are sweet. And so if we're balancing flavors, those of you that have been studying Ayurveda for a while, you know that the balance for sweet is bitter. Well, what is the main taste of dandelion? It's bitter. And if we are having satiating meals, meaning we feel very satisfied after eating them, those meals contain all 6 tastes. So this is a great way to get some true bitter taste into a meal, is to have the dandelion put into the salad with the beets. So the beets are sweet, the dandelion's bitter. And then we also have these more subtle flavors or tastes of astringent and a little pungency, a little spiciness. And we'll be adding some salty flavor. And this is cilantro. So I bought this at our health food store. And cilantro has a bit of bitter astringent and a little bit of sour taste. Have you all ever noticed that about cilantro? There's a little subtle sour. So I'm also going to chop up some of this cilantro. So these seeds are smelling so good. They start smelling really nutty, and they're getting, you might see some of the steam coming off of them. So they're getting a little more browned. So we're making these into really like crunchy nuggets. And we're gonna go in with the steamed beets. So another thing that makes food really enjoyable, and this is great to think about, especially for folks that are like, I don't really like cooking, or I don't really get it, like what the point is of making these meals, or like what you're aiming for. One of the things that I've learned that really makes food interesting, both visually and texturally, to eat, is to provide different textures. So we're gonna have like the soft texture of the steamed beet, and then we're gonna add in this crunchy texture of the seeds. All right, so beets are steaming now. I'm gonna chop up this cilantro. So I'm not really measuring this, but I would say that probably combined the dandelion and the cilantro probably equals half a cup if I was to put that in a measuring cup. So I'm chopping it up really fine so it gets stuck in our teeth. No, I'm just kidding. I do recommend after eating this salad that you check your teeth though, because you can have little green things stuck in your teeth and not know it. But I'm chopping it up really fine so that it's easy to kind of mix in and disperse into the salad. So again, let me know if anybody has any questions or insights or thoughts about what we're doing here. All right, so these are looking pretty good. I'm gonna turn this off. And today is kind of a cool summer day here, hence why I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. So this meal, which is all cooked food, will feel really, really good for the cool day. So on other days in the summer when it's really hot, you may make a raw lunch, depending on your agni, your digestive fire. You might be able to handle more raw. One thing I have learned from unfortunate experimentation is that raw beets make my throat itchy. So I don't make raw beet salad, but it's something you could do if you are interested in. So these are still hot. I've turned the heat off. They're done toasting, or they're in the process of being done toasting. And I'm going to put some of the Braggs on here, which will steam. A little cloud here. And so this will just cook into those hot seeds, and it makes them salty. But the liquid is evaporating off. So they're gonna come back to that crunchy state. So I'm just gonna let them hang out in this pan as the pan cools. And they're gonna keep kind of dry roasting, but the heat's not on underneath them. Okay. And then the other thing I'm gonna do is take some cumin, and I'm just gonna sprinkle the cumin over top of this. So you might use like a 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. And so that's gonna hang out, do its thing and cool. And then we've got our bowl that has the dandelion and the cilantro in it, waiting for the beets. So the beets have 7 minutes. So while we're waiting for the beets, I'm gonna get the goat cheese alternative. I'm gonna put these in the compost and show this to you. So this we've already had some of, but this is a company that I really like. I think you say it Miyoko's. Oh, this is gonna be backwards, but this is Classic Chive, and this is, it says buttery and savory cashew milk cheese. So this is a great plant-based alternative to eating goat cheese, which I like too. I don't not eat goat cheese, but this is pretty tasty. So it's organic cashew milk, organic coconut oil, organic chives, sea salt, organic rice miso, nutritional yeast, and cultures. So it's pretty straightforward and clean, and that is great. They have a whole line of different cheeses, and I also really like their sun-dried tomato. That's also like a goat cheese alternative, and then they also have some that are plant-based cheeses that are like hard cheeses. So I've had their smoked Gouda, and maybe that's the only hard cheese I've had from them. Anyway, there's some really great alternatives out there for cheeses. A lot of the things that are in mainstream grocery stores are pretty gross if you're looking for dairy alternatives. And this we can get at our local health food store. We don't have it at the regular grocery store, but it's pretty tasty. And if you want to use real goat cheese, you can do that too. All right, so let's see. Oh, Star asked, what about pine nuts? Would that also work? Absolutely, pine nuts would be super yummy in this. And pine nuts are used a lot in pesto, right? So pesto is made a lot in the summertime with basil, which is a summer plant. And so pine nuts would be very tasty. I don't have any pine nuts, but if you do, use them. That would be really good. Yeah, let's see if there's any other questions. What's the name of the beet? That's a good question. I don't know. I'll have to ask David, and he just left. I forget the name of the beet. We picked them out during the winter, but yeah, it's like a long skinny beet, and they're very tasty. I really like these beets. All right, we're kind of killing time here. This is a quick dish if you get your beets steamed. So what else could we talk about for, okay, so let's see 6 tastes. Let's see what we have in this dish. So sweet, we've got, so the 6 tastes are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent. Okay, so let's go through this dish and see what we can determine in terms of having all 6 tastes. Sweet, we've got beets. There might be a little sweetness in the goat cheese or the cashew cheese because nuts are sweet. There might be a little sweetness in the sunflower seeds. A little bit. That's not the main thing. Sour. Sour we have from the cashew cheese. There's a little sourness from the fermentation there. We've got a little sourness from the cilantro. Cumin also has a little sourness in it. Okay. Salty. We have the Bragg's liquid aminos, and we might also add a little salt depending on how this tastes in the end. So they're salty. Bitter. Dandelion. We've got the dandelion. Cilantro has a little bitterness too. Sunflower seeds have a slight bitterness. Yeah, so we've got bitter. Pungent. So that's spicy, or what would kindle agni or digestive fire. So there's not a whole lot, like a strong pungent in this dish, but I would say that dandelion has a little bit, and then the cumin does too. But this is subtle. This is very subtle. And then astringent. So astringent is basically drying. So it's what kind of draws moisture. So the sunflower seeds are slightly astringent. The cilantro and the dandelion are slightly astringent. So this is kind of dissecting a meal with the Ayurvedic 6 tastes in mind, or a dish. I mean, we're gonna have other things with this, right? So we're gonna have some salmon and then beet greens too. So our beets are done. I'm gonna release the pressure. You can hear it steaming. Yeah, we're gonna be right on time. This is a half-an-hour dish. And if I had started the beets prior to showing you all this, we would have been done already, because the other pieces are pretty quick. And this is such an amazing side dish for lots and lots of other things that you might make. So we'll put everything together in this bowl once we have gathered everything. I'm gonna get some hot mitts. So it's gonna take a minute. This is a very fancy Instant Pot. It'll tell me when it's ready for me to open it. Anyway, basically we're just gonna mix the beets in with the greens in the bowl, the seeds, and then add the goat cheese. And we might add a little salt and pepper. Okay, now it's okay to open the lid. Yay, beets. Okay, so here's our steaming beets. Okay, let's see if I can get pull this. Okay, so we're gonna scoop out the beets. So one of the things we wanna make sure of is that we're not like boiling the beets. So we don't want these to be too wet either. They're just steamed. They're such a beautiful, beautiful color. I'm putting them in the, lift this out. All right. All right, so there's our beets covering up our greens. Now we're gonna put these seeds in here. I'm gonna use a spatula that's dry with the cumin and the salty seeds. And then we're gonna add our goat cheese. And we'll mix it all up. I'm just gonna put some hunks in there. And then we'll mix it all up. You can also crumble this if you prefer to do that. This plant-based cheese tends to kind of melt and it just gets mixed in. It doesn't really stay in its crumble very well. Regular goat cheese does a little bit better with that. So now I'm gonna just mix this all up. Get all those greens up from the bottom. Get the cashew cheese mixed in. And voila, there's our beet salad. So I hope you all enjoy that and let me know what you think. And if you create other variations of this that you think are really tasty. Enjoy, take care.